The model that I'm going to talk about is an expansion of a model that I have developed in '93, and according to this model, the ISRAC, Laboratory Accreditation Authority in Israel, was established, and there is a law from '97. So part of the model was established already in Israel. So let's see what we are talking about. We have here risks, and the risk can come or appear from injury, diseases. It can cause genetic damage, everything that you can think about. The problem is that there is what we call the Ostrich problem, or the Ostrich paradox, that people do not pay attention to what can happen and how to deal with it. We have the idea of that we call acceptable risk. Acceptable risk is the risk that public in a certain area is ready to get in light of the pros and the cons that are presented to them in this area. And the issue is very important because the acceptable risk is really the upper limit that we can have of risk in the area. And it has an important role in design of industries and business plans in the area. If we look now, who are the stakeholders of potential risks? We have, of course, the holder or the owner of the potential risk, which is in the center. We have the local public. The local public, I mean the public that will be in danger. We have, or we should have, national regulator, and I shall explain in a few minutes what the meaning of a regulator, and a professional entity that will help, scientifically help the regulator. So these four components or elements are the player on the ground place that we are going to talk about. The potential risk holder really is responsible or may be responsible for health problems, and we are talking here about chemical, biological hazards, as well as on other hazards like fires or physical agents like noise, ionizing radiation like X-rays, even gamma sources, accelerators, and so on. The national regulator entities that I'm talking about, and for example, in the case of accreditation of laboratory, ISRAC, Israel Accreditation Authority, is the entity here. So we need a similar entity because this regulator states the standards, the procedures. He also has to provide the threats. And the threats can be natural technology, what is called, natech. It can be hostile, man-made, and a chain of technology afterwards. So the threat should be presented by the national regulator, and the national regulator is also the body that provides the requirements for insurance. Insurance is a mandate in this case, and I'm talking about third body insurance. It's not about the facilities, but about the damage to the area around it, around the source of the potential risk. Now, the insurance can be provided by insuring companies, and it turned out in most of the countries that you see that the insurance companies are covered by the government, by the state, because we are talking here about huge damages, and it is impossible for a single insurance company to cover it. The professional entity, here we talk about headquarters, like a hub, that have connections with experts in the country and outside the country, independent experts, I mean. And they will be able to help and to advise the regulator. Now, what is the procedure? What should be done? We should start here with step one. So the potential risk holder, which is here on the left side, upper left side, first of all, has to publish detailed information. The local public accept it, and there is the procedures well done in the world, and everything is clear how to do it, and you get from them the acceptable risk. The acceptable risk is informed to the regulator as well as to the potential risk holder. Now, the potential holder prepares the application to build hazard for, in this case, I'm talking only about hazardous material system. So he has to present the application for it. He sent it to the regulator, and the regulator immediately informed the professional entity about it. And the regulator issues the regulations and requirements to the potential risk holder. I don't know, is it possible to point here? Oh, no, okay. Now, the potential risk holder has to prepare preliminary risk report, which goes to the regulator and to the professional entities. There are usually questions and clarifications that should be carried out. And finally, we have the preliminary risk report. When it is acceptable, the regulator provides the authorization to start building. So you see, we have here the first step with the preliminary risk report, which include everything, because the requirements of the regulator includes the threats and all the standards and everything that we can think about. Now, step two is after the building. After the building, final risk report should be issued with validation, and there are methods how to validate the assessments and the simulations that were carried out. Again, it goes to the regulator passes it over to the professional entity after some clarifications and so on. Let's say that we come to the stage that the final risk report is acceptable. As a result of it, information goes to the local public, and there is open for oppositions or questions from the open public. which goes to the regulator, and again, the professional entity is expected to answer it. After that, the regulator will provide the authorization to start in operation for a limited period. Usually it is 1 year or 2 years. That is the end of step 2. Now we come to the step 3, which is during the operation. During the operation, the potential risk holder has to monitor the data and to provide all the data to the regulator. There is the analysis. Information to the public goes from the regulator to the public. Oppositions, if there are, immediately are treated. The regulator perform audits, and as a result of it, there is a need for corrective actions and preventive actions from the potential risk holder. And there are clarifications about it, and if he fulfills the requirements, he can continue. If he doesn't fulfill it, there is an order to stop operation. Step 4 is end of the limited period that we were talking about. So you see what happened now is the potential risk holder on the left has to apply again for continuing operation. And the local public supply updated acceptable risk, because during the time maybe knowledge was added, maybe the population density changed, and so on. And it goes to the regulator and to the professional entity, and the application is going to the regulator, and now the regulator provides the new accepted risk and the new requirements, or maybe new requirements. The potential holder should prepare updated risk report plus validation. And by the way, one of the points that we have to remember is that always the risk report should show that the risk that the operator or the holder is talking about is lower than the acceptable risk. That is a condition, of course. So, and we have information all the time to the public. Now, what happened afterward is that there is the analysis again, and if everything is okay, you see that the regulator can issue authorization again for a limited period of 1 or 2 years. Such a model can eliminate catastrophes, and it can eliminate situations that we are talking about with so-called, as somebody before, I think from Azmat said, the so-called experts. So there are so-called experts from both sides, and we have a catastrophe because the procedure was not the right one. And what we have now, you see, it results from lack of proper regulations and proper enhancement as it should be, and there is no control system in general, or national control system. We have here ideas of the owner or holder of the ammonia. We have ideas from the different ministries at the government. And in order to eliminate this chaos, we have to think very carefully, you see, how to change it. And that is the suggestion, how to change it. And I welcome you now to the coffee.
So, thank you. Thank you, Amos. I